From forgotten underdogs dominating all the pros, to players secretly bending the rules when no one was watching. These are the 20 moments that changed the Open Championship forever. And first we start with number 20. We're at Royal Troon in 2016, and something absolutely crazy is about to go down between two golf legends that absolutely nobody saw coming. Just a month earlier, Henrik Stenson and Phil Mickelson had been paired for the first two rounds of the US Open at Oakmont. Stenson was 0 for 40 in majors and had just turned 40. The clock was ticking for the Swede. Phil, on the other hand, already had 5 majors under his belt. Fast forward to July 17, 2016, final round at Royal Troon. Stenson started with a one-shot lead and most expected a decent title fight. But what followed was next-level madness. Stenson bogeyed early after a wild approach and a 3-putt. Mickelson stuck his approach to a couple of feet, tapped in for birdie, and suddenly had a one-shot lead. But that was just the beginning. Their duel became so intense it left the rest of the field in the dust. J.B. Holmes, who finished third, was a distant 11 shots behind. The media dubbed it High Noon at Troon. It wasn't just a battle, it was a two-man masterclass. Together, they combined for an eagle, 14 birdies, and just 2 bogeys. Stenson fired a final round 63, finishing at 264, 20 under par, a new major scoring record. That's how absurdly good the golf was. But here's what makes this whole thing unbelievable. Mickelson finished at 17 under. He was 11 shots ahead of third place and still lost. That's almost never happened in golf history. Stenson became the first Scandinavian man to win a major, capping off what many consider the greatest head-to-head final round in major championship history. Next up at number 19, we're diving into Royal St. George's in 2003. And there's this guy nobody's ever heard of who's about to make one of the most ridiculous bets in sports history pay off. Ben Curtis entered the 2003 Open Championship ranked 396th in the world. Let me put that in perspective for you. That's like being the 396th best anything in the world. You wouldn't trust the 396th best pizza place in the world to make your dinner, right? But here's this 26-year-old from Ohio making his very first major championship appearance ever, and he's got the audacity to show up at one of golf's most prestigious venues. But I promise, it gets interesting. Curtis did his homework. He practiced on the Saturday and Sunday before the championship with the help of local caddy Andy Sutton, who he'd only just met upon arriving in England. Smart move, because this was his first time playing links golf, and Royal St. George's isn't exactly forgiving to newcomers. 2 rounds of 72 put him in a 7-way tie for 4th, and people started thinking, okay, cute story, but this rookie's about to crumble. Wrong. A 3rd round 70 moved him into a 5-way tie for 3rd, just 2 shots behind leader Thomas Bjorn. Then Sunday happened. Curtis went out in 32 and collected 6 birdies in the first 11 holes to lead by 2 strokes. The golf world collectively said, wait, what? While Bjorn shot 72, Curtis fired a final round 69 to finish at -1, beating Bjorn and Vijay Singh by exactly 1 shot. The kid did it. He became the first golfer since Francis Ouimet in 1913 to win his major championship debut. At number 18, we're transported to Turnberry in 1994. And a man who's been haunted by 2 crushing Open defeats is standing over the most important putt of his entire career. But let me set the scene for you first. This wasn't supposed to be Nick Price's moment. The Zimbabwean had finished runner-up twice before, losing a 2-shot lead with 6 holes to play to Tom Watson at Royal Troon in 1982, and getting overtaken by Seve Ballesteros' blistering 65 at Royal Lytham in 1988. 2 heartbreaks that would have crushed most people. But here he is, 6 years later, getting another shot. Coming into the final day, Price was in a 4-way tie for 3rd, just 1 shot off the lead. Not exactly where you want to be when you're chasing your first claret jug. And early on, it looked like things were slipping away. 2 bogeys in his first 6 holes pushed him backward on the leaderboard, while Jesper Parnevik surged ahead. Parnevik caught fire with 3 straight birdies from the 9th. Even after a bogey at 15, he bounced back with birdies at 16 and 17, pulling 2 shots clear. It felt like the tournament was his, but Price wasn't done. He birdied 16 to close the gap, then reached the par 5 17th green in 2. From 50 feet away, he faced a daunting putt, one most players would just hope to lag close. But as it rolled toward the hole, it held its line. It caught a spike mark near the end, nudged slightly off course, but it dropped. Dead center. That putt flipped everything. Parnevik, now on the 18th, believed he needed a birdie to win. Instead, he made bogey. Nick Price walked away with a one-shot victory, and finally, the claret jug he'd chased for over a decade. For number 17, we're heading to St. Andrews in 1995, home to one of the most incredible comebacks ever, where one golfer reminded the world it's never over until it's truly over. John Daly's sitting pretty in the clubhouse at 6 under par, and this Italian guy is trailing by one shot, heading to the famous 18th. All Rocca needs is one birdie to force a playoff with Wild Thing himself for the claret jug. The chance of his lifetime is right there. But golf can be brutal. When he duffed his pitch into the Valley of Sin, all hope seemed lost. That dreaded hollow in front of the 18th green where golf dreams go to die. Rocca had 65 feet left from the Valley of Sin, which looks like a grassed-in Paul Bunyan footprint, only deeper and trickier. Everyone's thinking it's over. Daly's already mentally holding the claret jug. His wife's celebrating in the stands. But Rocca pulls out his putter and lines up this impossible shot. From 65 feet away, he gave it a go. And somehow, the ball climbed the slope, picked up speed, and dropped into the hole like it was rushing to catch a train. The crowd went wild, bleachers shaking, people screaming. And Rocca? He threw himself on the grass, pounding it in pure shock and joy. It was a miracle putt. 1 second he was out, the next he forced a playoff. Sure, John Daly went on to win in the 4-hole playoff, claiming his first Open championship and second major. But honestly, that putt is still remembered as one of the best in Open history. That brings us to number 16, and this one's a double heartbreak for Rory McIlroy. Two separate St. Andrews disasters that perfectly sum up how cruel golf can be. First up is 2010, when 21-year-old Rory burst onto the scene with what looked like a masterpiece in the making. The 21-year-old from Northern Ireland tied the major championship record Thursday by shooting a 9 under 63 in the opening round of the British Open. The kid was absolutely flying. Starting with his Eagle 2 after driving the 352-yard par 4 ninth hole, the young Rory went 8 under for his last 10 holes, and suddenly everyone's talking about him shooting 62. Then, Friday happened. A painful second-round 80 effectively ended McIlroy's hopes of Open glory in 2010. From a record-tying 63 to 80 in one day, the winds came up and completely destroyed his momentum. He still managed to finish third, but you could see the pain in his eyes, knowing what could have been. Fast forward 5 years, and it gets even more brutal. Rory's the defending Open champion, ranked number 1 in the world, and everyone's penciling him in as the favorite at St. Andrews. Then this happens. Total rupture of left ankle ligament and associated joint capsule damage in a soccer kickabout with friends on Saturday. A soccer game. The timing was absolutely devastating. He was the first player not to defend his Open title since Ben Hogan in 1954. 2 chances at St. Andrews, one ruined by wind, one ruined by a kickabout with mates. Life can be absolutely savage. For number 15, we're stepping into the summer of 1979 at Royal Lytham and St. Anne's. A 22-year-old Spanish kid is standing on the 16th tee in the final round, and he's about to pull off something absolutely insane. I mean, we're talking about a moment that would literally define his entire career. So, here's the thing. Severiano Ballesteros was trying to become the youngest Open champion of the 20th century and the first golfer from mainland Europe to win a major since 1907. The pressure? Enormous. What any sane golfer would do, play it safe, right? But not Sevi. His driver had been getting him into trouble all week, but he kept using it anyway as the pressure mounted. Like, you're leading by 3 shots, you've got Jack Nicklaus breathing down your neck, and what do? You grab the club that's been betraying you all week and swing for the fences, of course. The ball rockets off his club face and, oh no, where's it going? Past the crowd, past the rough, past anything that looks like a golf course. His drive ended up in an overflow car park to the right of the fairway. Under a car. Can you believe it? Hale Irwin, who was playing with him, would later call him the car park champion. And honestly, who could blame him? But after getting his free drop, Sevi had to execute the shot of his life. He pitched it onto the green and then drained a 20-foot putt for birdie. The crowd went absolutely mental, and Sevi walked away with his first major, beating Nicklaus and Ben Crenshaw by 3 shots. Unbelievable. Which brings us to number 14, and man, this one still hurts to watch even today. We're at Carnoustie in 2007, and Sergio Garcia is about to experience what might be the most painful near miss in golf history. Back then, he had yet to win a major championship and, for the first time in his career, led a major after 54 holes. The guy was absolutely flying through 3 rounds. Sergio Garcia led the field with a 6 under 65 in the opening round. It felt like destiny was finally calling for El Niño. He headed into the final round with a 3-shot lead over Steve Stricker and hoped to win his first major title wire to wire. After birding the 3rd hole to be the first player to get to double digits for the tournament, Garcia was looking very strong to get the job done. What could possibly go wrong? Well, Carnoustie happened. The Spaniard produced 3 bogeys in 4 holes to end his front 9 on +2 for his round and 7 under for the tournament, which at this stage had him tied for the lead with Padraig Harrington. This is where you start feeling sick for the guy. The drama peaked at the 18th hole. Garcia, who now had a 1-shot lead on the par 4 72nd hole, found a greenside bunker with his approach shot. He left himself a 10-footer for par and the title, but the putt lipped out and he had to settle for a playoff. 10 feet to win your first major, and it lips out. The playoff was brutal. Harrington birdied the par 4 first hole while Garcia bogeyed, a 2-stroke edge. Game over. Garcia would wait another decade to finally break through at Augusta, but this Carnoustie heartbreak? Pure torture. Coming in at number 13, we're heading to St. Andrews in 1978, where this player is about to become part of golf history, for all the wrong reasons, because sometimes one bad putt can follow you forever. Nakajima was having a great week at the Open. In the 3rd round, he had a putt on the 17th to tie for the lead. He was right there, dreaming of becoming the first Japanese player to win a major. And it looked like he might actually pull it off. Now, the 17th at St. Andrews is already terrifying. It's one of the most brutal par 4s in golf. But Tommy reached the green in regulation. All he needed was a solid putt to stay in the hunt. Instead, the ball rolls off the green and drops straight into the infamous road hole bunker, the one with the steep face and that menacing road just behind it. And that's when the nightmare really kicks in. That bunker has crushed more dreams than any other in golf, and now it's Tommy's turn. 4 shots, 4 tries just to get out. His first 3 sand shots, almost perfect, but each one fell just short, rolled back down the slope and nearly hit his feet. Over and over again, the crowd couldn't believe it. Finally, the 4th shot held. He 2-putted for a 9 on a par 4. Just like that, his chances of winning were buried right there in the sand. And that bunker? It got a new name. Today, the caddies at St. Andrews still call it the Sands of Nakajima. Sliding into number 12, we're heading to St. Andrews again. This time in the summer of 2000. And trust me, Tiger Woods is about to do something that will leave jaws on the floor. Fresh off that absolutely ridiculous 15-stroke victory at Pebble Beach for the US Open, Tiger arrives at the home of golf with one simple goal: complete the career Grand Slam at 24 years old. Oh, and maybe put on a clinic while he's at it. You want to know how confident this guy was? After winning at Pebble, Tiger told his caddy Steve Williams, "I'm going to play even better at the Open at St. Andrews." Can you imagine having that kind of confidence in your own destiny? So, Tiger started with a textbook 67, staying patient with 8 consecutive pars before exploding with 5 birdies. But that was just the warm-up. A bogey-free 66 on Friday put him 3 shots clear, and suddenly everyone realized this wasn't going to be a contest. It was going to be an exhibition. Tiger didn't find a single bunker during the entire championship. Not one. On a course with 112 bunkers. He posted rounds of 67, 66, 67, and 69 to finish at 19 under par, which was a record for the lowest score relative to par in any major championship. His 8-stroke victory margin was the largest in Open history since 1913. At just 24 years old, Tiger became the youngest player ever to complete the career Grand Slam, beating Jack Nicklaus's record by 2 years. Absolutely unreal. At number 11, we're watching one of the most heartbreaking near misses in golf history. Turnberry 2009. A legendary figure, 59 years old, fresh off hip replacement surgery, is somehow leading a major championship heading into the final round. At first it seemed like a feel-good story. A bogey-free 65 on day 1, and people smiled politely. Good for him. But this wasn't a nostalgia tour. This was real. The man had entered the tournament as a 1,500 to 1 long shot, and he was actually pulling it off. By Sunday, the entire sports world was watching. He birdied 17 and stepped onto the 18th tee with a one-shot lead. One more par, and he would become the oldest major winner in golf history, by 11 years. And then, heartbreak. With the wind behind him, his approach skipped too far, ending up over the back of the green. Still, an 8-foot par putt stood between him and history. He missed. And in the playoff, the dream slipped away for good. Tom Watson, the legend who was 8 feet from the claret jug, had to watch it disappear right in front of him. It had been 26 years since his last major win, and in just a few painful minutes, golf reminded us how cruel it can be. For number 10, we're at Royal Birkdale again. This time in 1983, when one of golf's steadiest players did something so bizarre, you'd almost think it was a dream or a nightmare. Irwin was right in the mix during the third round and had just left a birdie putt hanging on the lip of the hole at the 14th. No worries though, he was left with a tap-in so short it was basically a formality. We're talking 1 inch, shorter than your thumb, and then the unthinkable. He bent down, casually swung his putter to knock it in, and whiffed. Completely. Not only did the ball miss the hole, his putter missed the ball. Entirely. A total air shot. It was dubbed the shortest miss in golf history. And honestly, how could it not be? 1 inch from the hole, and it all unraveled. Credit to Irwin. He immediately called the penalty on himself and took the bogey. No arguments, no excuses. And here's the brutal part. Irwin finished the tournament just 1 shot behind Tom Watson. That one whiff didn't just cost him a stroke. It might have cost him the entire championship, possibly even a playoff. After that, he became extra cautious on short putts. It was one tiny moment, one lapse in focus, and it cost him everything. Golf doesn't get more unforgiving than that. Counting down to number 9, we've got one of the most soul-crushing rules disasters in golf history. Royal St. George's, 2003. And someone's about to learn the hard way that in this sport, even the smallest mistake can ruin everything. He's having the week of his life. Paired with Jesper Parnevik, he fires a brilliant 67 on Saturday, tied for the round of the tournament. Other than Nick Faldo, nobody else even comes close. Suddenly, this journeyman is tied for third, just 3 shots off the lead. He's buzzing, he's thinking about teeing it up in the final group with Tiger Woods. Everything feels like it's falling into place. And then, disaster. What nobody realized was that he and Parnevik never exchanged scorecards before the round. So when they each filled in and signed the card, Parnevik's scores ended up on his card, and his scores on Parnevik's. That one tiny mistake, automatic disqualification, both of them. Just like that, his entire open dream vanished. The worst part? That rule has since been changed, but not in time for Mark Rowe, who never played in another major again. One wrong piece of paper, one signature, and it was all over. Devastating. Coming in at number 8, we're heading to Turnberry in 1977. And let me tell you, this one's different from the others. This isn't about a collapse or heartbreak. This is about 2 absolute legends putting on the greatest show golf has ever seen. So, you've got 27-year-old Tom Watson, the rising star, going up against Jack Nicklaus, the Golden Bear himself, with 14 majors already in his back pocket. The two played together in the final 2 rounds and had separated themselves from the field under clear skies, leading this Open to be remembered as the duel in the sun. These guys were absolutely ridiculous. Both shot 5 under 65 for 203, 3 shots clear of Ben Crenshaw, and 6 ahead of the remainder of the field after 54 holes. They basically told everyone else to go home and watch on TV because the event was going to be a 2-man show. And it was. Nicklaus birdied twice and was up by 3 strokes after 4 holes. Watson birdied 3 of the next 4 to pull even, and the crowd lost their minds. Jack's in trouble on 18, hits this miracle recovery shot, and then sinks his 35-foot putt for a remarkable birdie and a bogey-free 66. Now it was Watson's turn. He needed a 7th birdie of the round to avoid an 18-hole playoff with Nicklaus. He calmly knocked in a 2-footer for birdie to shoot 65 and win by 1 stroke. When it was all over, Watson's advantage over third-place finisher Hubert Green was a jaw-dropping 10 shots. They completely destroyed the field while battling each other. The golf was so good that the 18th at Turnberry was promptly renamed the Duel in the Sun, just to honor what happened that day. Sliding in at number 7, We're heading to St. Andrews in 1970, and Doug Sanders is standing over what should be the most routine putt of his entire career. But sometimes, golf has other plans, and what's about to unfold will haunt one man for the rest of his life. Let's set the scene. Final hole at the home of golf. Sanders had just saved par with a brilliant bunker shot on the 17th, spinning it to tap-in range from the dreaded road hole bunker. The momentum was his. All he needed now was a simple par on 18 to beat Jack Nicklaus and win the Claret Jug. He hit the green in 2 and left his first putt just 2.5 to 3 feet short. Absolutely routine, the kind of putt you'd expect any weekend golfer to make. Nicklaus was already in the scorer's tent, watching the feed, waiting for the inevitable. Then it all unraveled. As Sanders addressed the ball, something caught his eye on the line, maybe a bit of dirt or a small pebble. He bent down to brush it away, but when he stood back up, he didn't reset. He just stood there for 12 long seconds. Then came the stroke. A jab. Not a smooth roll, not a confident finish. Just a weak swipe that sent the ball veering wide of the cup. He instinctively reached out as if to pull the ball back, then froze again, realizing what had just happened. That miss forced a tie with Nicklaus at 283, leading to the first 18-hole playoff in Open Championship history. The next day, Nicklaus edged him out by 1 stroke, 72 to 73, and sealed the win by tossing his putter in the air in celebration. As for Sanders, that putt became the moment everyone remembered. For number 6, we're at Royal Birkdale in 2017, watching Jordan Spieth pull off what might be the most insane comeback in Open Championship history. So, Spieth's cruising along on Sunday, leading by 3 shots, looking like he's going to cruise to his 3rd major. Then, the 13th hole happens and everything goes absolutely mental. Spieth's drive on Royal Birkdale's par 4 13th went a tad right of the fairway. And by tad right, we mean that's the type of reaction you see at your local Muni, not in the final pairing of the Open Championship. The ball goes into another dimension. When fans finally located Spieth's rock, it was in a less than desirable position, way off in the rough behind some massive dune. But then comes the crazy part. For the next 20 minutes, Spieth and caddy Michael Greller seemingly surveyed the entire property, searching for the right place to take relief. A search that took the duo to the driving range, through equipment vans, and up and down Birkdale's dunes. The driving range, he's literally hitting his 3rd shot from the practice facility. Jordan hits his recovery shot from behind the equipment trailers near the practice range and somehow makes bogey. Most guys would crumble after that circus, but not Spieth. Then the fireworks started. A near ace. A 50-foot eagle putt and a 30-foot birdie putt. Spieth played the final 5 holes in 5 under to win by 3 shots. From the driving range to the Claret Jug in 5 holes. That's just magnificent. Landing at number 5, we're at Royal Lytham in 2001, witnessing what might be the most brutal penalty ever handed down in major championship history. And the worst part? It wasn't even the player's fault. Sunday morning, final round. This underdog starts off on fire. First hole, par 3, his tee shot finishes 6 inches from the cup. 6 inches. Nearly an ace. He taps in for birdie and takes the lead at the Open Championship. Everything is going perfectly, and then walking to the second tee, his caddy turns and drops an absolute bomb. We've got 15 clubs. 15, not 14. That's one too many. An extra driver had been rattling around in the bag the whole time, and no one noticed until now. He tosses the extra club into a bush and takes the mandatory 2-shot penalty. Just like that, the birdie turns into a bogey. Ian Woosnam from leading the Open to falling 1 shot back, all because his caddy couldn't count. And if that wasn't cruel enough, here's the kicker. He still finished tied for 3rd, just 4 shots behind the winner, David Duval. That 2-shot penalty? It cost him a potential Ryder Cup spot, and more than £218,000 in prize money. One miscount, a £250,000 mistake. Golf doesn't get much more painful than that. Making its way to number 4, we're at Muirfield in 2013, and Phil Mickelson is about to pull off one of the most underrated clutch performances here. But here's the thing. Nobody was even talking about him going into Sunday. Phil started the final round 5 shots back, sitting at 2 over par with 8 players ahead of him. All eyes were on the usual suspects. Tiger, who was chasing his first major in 5 years, and Lee Westwood trying to finally break through for his first. Mickelson, barely a blip on the radar. The momentum shift came at the 13th hole. Into a stiff wind, Mickelson hit a perfect 5-iron to about 12 feet. He was still one over and knew even par could win, so when that birdie putt dropped, something clicked. He suddenly believed he could take the whole thing. From there, he caught fire. He birdied the 14th. Meanwhile, Adam Scott bogeyed the 13th, and just like that, they were tied. But Phil wasn't slowing down. He birdied 4 of his final 6 holes, including the last 2, to cap off a stunning final round 66 and win by 3 shots over Henrik Stenson. His caddy Jim Bones Mackay called it the best round Phil had ever played, and Phil himself didn't argue. It was that good. After 20 tries at the Open and 22 years of chasing it, Phil finally lifted the claret jug. And now you've reached our top 3. Here we're heading to Carnoustie in 1999, and honestly, that year at Carnoustie needs no introduction. We're not talking about just any choke. This was an unraveling so dramatic, people still can't believe it actually happened. Van de Velde stood on the 18th tee with a 3-shot lead. All he needed was a double bogey. He could have played the hole backward with a putter and still walked away with the win. The claret jug was basically his. But then, chaos. Instead of playing it safe, Van de Velde later said he thought his lead was only 2, so he pulled out his driver and launched it way right, over the water, onto the 17th fairway. Not ideal, but still recoverable. Then came decision number 2. Instead of laying up, he went for the green with a 2-iron. The result? Total madness. The ball caromed off the grandstand near the green, flew backward nearly 50 yards, and landed in thick, knee-high rough near the berry burn. If it had stayed in the stands, he could have dropped for free. But golf wasn't feeling generous that day. And then came the moment. One that lives in infamy. His 3rd shot out of the rough went straight into the burn. And in a scene that looked more like a comedy sketch than a major championship, Van de Velde rolled up his pants, took off his shoes and socks, and actually stepped into the water. For a moment, he looked like he might try to hit the shot out of the stream. Eventually, reason kicked in. Van de Velde took a penalty drop, hit his 5th into the bunker, got up and down, and drained a 6-footer for triple bogey. That dropped him into a playoff with Justin Leonard and Paul Lawrie. Lawrie went on to win it, completing the biggest final round comeback in major history, 10 shots back. As for Van de Velde, his name became a symbol of what happens when you throw caution and common sense out the window at the worst possible time. One of golf's most unforgettable disasters, immortalized in just 1 hole. At number 2, we're heading to St. Andrews in 1995, where golf got a champion no one expected and a photo no one could ever forget. John Daly wasn't supposed to be here, not on top of the leaderboard at the Open Championship, not at St. Andrews, not in a playoff for the claret jug. The man was better known for launching 300-yard bombs and drinking Diet Cokes by the gallon than for outlasting the world's best on the sport's most historic stage. But that week, he kept it together. He grinded, he battled. And after Costantino Rocca sank a miracle putt from the Valley of Sin to force a playoff, Daly stayed locked in. Rocca cracked with a triple bogey. And Daly? Cool as ever. He walked off the 18th green with a claret jug and a story for the ages. And that's when it happened. Just as Daly's wife, Paulette, ran onto the green to hug him, still buzzing from the win, a completely naked man came sprinting across the frame. Red cap, socks, and the words 19th hole painted across his back, with an arrow pointing straight down. Security gave chase, the crowd roared, and someone captured the moment in a photo that instantly became legend. Daly embracing his wife, the claret jug just won, and in the background, a streaker airborne mid-sprint like he'd just taken the title. And finally, the big number 1. We're heading to Royal Lytham in 2012, and honestly, this one still makes me cringe thinking about it. Adam Scott was the leader after 54 holes, with Els 6 strokes back, tied for 5th. The guy was absolutely crushing it for 3 days straight. I mean, Adam Scott made 8 birdies and only 2 bogeys en route to a 6-under par 64, tying the course record in the first round. Everything was looking perfect for his first major win. But then Sunday happened, and this is where things get really uncomfortable to watch. After a birdie at the 14th hole, Scott was 4 strokes ahead with 4 holes to play. You could practically see the claret jug engraved with his name already. He stood on the 15th tee with a 4-shot lead. All he had to do was play steady golf. But instead, he bogeyed 15. No big deal. Then he bogeyed 16. Oh. The pressure was building fast. On 17, another bogey. The lead was gone. But he still had one hole left to right the ship. Then came the 72nd hole. Scott's tee shot found a fairway bunker. From there, he had no choice but to pitch out sideways. His third shot left him with an 8-foot putt to save par and force a playoff with Ernie Els. But the putt missed left. 4 straight bogeys. Just like that, he'd thrown it all away. Scott's collapse handed the claret jug to Els, who had already finished at 7 under. It will go down as one of the biggest meltdowns in golf major history. And you know what? It really was.